Hi, my name is Kelly Severson, and today I will be presenting my artist topic, which was Kiki Smith. American artist and sculptor Kiki Smith started her journey in Nuremberg, Germany in 1954. She grew up in local South Orange, New Jersey, and is the daughter of famous sculptor Tony Smith and Jane Lawrence. To give some insight on her background, Tony Smith, her father, otherwise known as Anthony Peter Smith, was an American sculptor, visual artist, architectural designer, and a noted theorist. He started working professionally as an architect in New York and Vermont until he started sculpting his now famous large scale, modular works produced throughout the 1960s and 70s. He is cited as a pioneering figure in the American minimalist sculpture, as you can see by the two images. His death was the main catalyst for Kiki Smith to start her own sculpting journey. In her early life, she was enrolled in college at the Hartford Art School in Connecticut in 1974. However, she ended up dropping out about 18 months later. She settled in New York in 1976, surviving by completing odd jobs, until she joined the Collaborative Projects, which is an artist collective devoted to making art accessible through exhibitions outside commercial gallery settings. During this period, Kiki Smith was making her preliminary artworks, which consisted of monotypes of mostly average objects. Her practices included the use of tattoos, drawing, sculpture, printmaking, textiles, and photography, all in an attempt to create figural representations that started exploring themes of mortality, sexuality, and the human body. The unfortunate idea that genuinely inspired Kiki Smith to start sculpting and creating art was her father's death in 1980. She began to have an obsession with furthering her practical knowledge of the body, so she began taking EMT courses and anatomical courses. The impact of her new knowledge was instantaneous and severely influenced how she created her future pieces. Her more noticeable pieces to incorporate ideas and themes of mortality and eventually led to confronting social issues such as feminism, gender norms, AIDS, and even related to a general commentary of the relationship between humans and nature itself. In her first notable piece, Hand and Jar, which was created in 1983, consisted of a latex hand covered in algae and purposefully submerged in a mason jar filled with water. What makes this piece so important was that it was the first art that centered around death, featuring her knowledge before studying the body, and because it brings about a kind of clinical realism, almost as if you're watching a dissection of an animal, but in full display with all of the gory details. Her pieces usually take a clinical matter after this piece, depicting realistic human organs as well as such as lungs, stomachs, and hearts. Although gruesome, these pieces became notable for her. Smith's obsession with bodily fluids paved the way to various works entirely devoted to these fluids, providing a powerful commentary during the AIDS crisis in which she created Game Time, which is the number 2 photo. Game Time consisted of 12 glass jars stacked on a shelf, which has been stamped. Her work of art comprised of 12 different secretions. This might be gory, but that includes pus, vomit, saliva, and many other bodily fluids. Each jar or each container is engraved in a Gothic script. Not only did Kiki Smith impact how Americans viewed the AIDS crisis, but she also created works to change the perspective and comment on the political debate of things such as abortion. Her next piece, number 3, is described as Womb, also created in 1986. It is a swollen uterus cast in bronze and is hinged on one side, and when it's opened, it reveals an emptiness. There's nothing else necessarily inside of it. Kiki Smith uses this piece as a metaphor for women's struggles to control their bodies and presenting the feelings that they often harbor. When talking about art styles, Kiki Smith did participate in minimalist styles in her early life, which was influenced by her father. However, her work more aligned with the sculptures of female artists such as Lois Bourgeois and Eva Hesse, two artists active in the anti-form movement, who created objects that defied traditional object making. Robert Morrison is also a key factor and is closely linked to the anti-form movement as well. But what is the movement itself? The anti-form movement was a group of artists in the United States in the late 1960s. They embraced chance and mostly other random organic processes to create these sculptures. As you can see by the two images on the right, these were the pieces that were mostly associated with the art style of the anti-form movement. The movement mostly worked against the common principle in which it imposed order on materials and confined themselves to fixed geometric shapes and structures. For my visual analysis, I chose Kiki Smith's piece Possession is 9/10 of the Law, which was created in 1985. The color and arrangement of the piece are really intricate. As you can see, there's lots of yellows and greens and lots of blacks to create heavy shadowing, which gives these pieces a realistic looking form. Through the repeating pattern in earth tone color palette, she creates a sense of rhythm within her composition. The pieces almost appear as they are moving due to the technique and line Smith created, and they have a very uniform balance. Each lined up within each other shows the proportion and scale to each other and in which ways they work together. It's kind of similar to Andy Warhol's Campbell Bell's Soup Collection, in which the cans were placed side by side. There were no changes in that piece and is more associated with art pop movement. However, you can see that same motion and rhythm represented in this piece here. The iconography is seen in the heavy title. It's legalistic in the sense that it uses the words of possession is 9/10 of the law, and it alludes to Kiki Smith's feminism about female bodies and represents the social and political ideologies. Another important part of this piece is that you can see a passing of time, in a literal sense and a metaphorical sense, which is shown within the sequences of decay, showing how each body part is in the motion of its life cycle. But the main question was, why Kiki Smith? When digging through the other artists, what drew me to this artist, while digging through other artists, what drew me to Kiki Smith was not only that she was a female sculptor, but she was also such a big advocate for so many causes and used her art in unique ways. She puts lots of creativity, lots of effort, and she has to have a lot of bravery to complete pieces of art that are not a part of the conventional movements. To advocate for abortion through an empty womb is mind blowing to me. The kind of creativity, effort, and bravery to make that art is not a part of the standard form. And it honestly forces people to confront their awkwardness around the idea of political ideas through these almost disturbing and unusual methods. Though they seem to work very well. It's inspiring. Her pieces are unique, and she is an excellent example of what is unconventional. Though many do not see the beauty in her Though many do not see beauty in her grotesque pieces, I do. And I've grown quite fond of learning about her stories and why she makes the pieces that she does. As best said by Lager, Smith's art weaves narratives of complex relationships between spirit and flesh. No other artist has interested me in such a way, and that art is so spiritual and sometimes disturbing, which proves to me that Kiki Smith will forever leave a unique mark on the art community. Her works to this day inspire incorporating mortality and realism within art. Here is a quick video previewing her works and her messages.
It was all, lots of death everywhere. So, I spent a couple of years drawing dead animals. I had this vision of that I was supposed to make another Noah's Ark, but it was of dead animals. This was when my cat died. I made all these sort of pieta, sort of self-portrait pieta of me holding my dead cat. I made like 50 billion prints of dead animals. And then I think, how come I own all those prints still?
And that's just a quick video to show you what exactly Kiki Smith's work is about. And as you can see, it's not for money, and it's much more for her own personal enjoyment and creating something that expresses her own emotions, which is very brave of an artist. Lastly, here are some credits and the bibliography. Thanks for watching.